Good morning and welcome to Motivation on Monday. For those who don't know me, I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm the founder of Step by Step Listening, and Monday is all about the stuff that we need to inspire us to do more of what we love and ditch the critic that says we can't. The subject today is, why is it so hard to get good help? The reason I want to talk about this today is that ultimately, if we want to get anything in life for it to happen, we have to know what we want, and secondly, we have to have time to make that happen. So we have to create plans, make a conscious decision to commit to do or be or have something different. And invariably, we will need support, particularly if we're learning something new, or maybe something's changed in our life. Maybe something's happened to us that we didn't expect to happen. And it can be all sorts of things. Sometimes it can be ill health. Sometimes it can be bereavement. Sometimes it could be divorce. It could be just simply that we kind of knew it was coming. Maybe our children are growing up and they're needing us less, or maybe our children have decided to move away. It could be in business that we've suddenly got really busy and we're having to think differently about the business model, because actually the business model we've sort of found ourselves in is not allowing us to live at our best, not allowing us to have the life that we want. It might be that the business we're attracting people that are not paying us on time, or not paying us what we believe it's worth. It might be, there's all sorts of things that can happen in life, and we often find ourselves caught in moaning about what's not working. So we can find ourselves complaining about staff or family members or friends about what they're not doing to help us or not helping to support us. But what we actually need to do is get real clear. So what are the key things that I know about getting help? The reason why it's usually hard is that, one, we're not consciously aware of really what kind of help we want, and often have not made a firm decision that we're going to ask for it or seek it out and accept it. So things like we drop hints instead. So I can tell you more stories about myself and my husband, but I remember going, I really fancy a cup of tea, and kind of like looking with one eye, hoping that somebody will pick up on the vibe or the hint, primarily because as someone who is a super carer of other people, I only have to hear a huff or a sigh or the odd word, and I'll be going, would you like a cup of tea? Would you do this? And I'm kind of like, it's almost like an autopilot response that I start asking other people. So when I came to the point where I needed to ask for help, what I did start to notice was some patterns of, I wasn't actually getting really clear what I wanted, who I wanted to help me, when I wanted to be helped, or how I wanted to be helped, or even why I needed to be helped. And so when it came to asking for it, it was all a bit mushed up. It was all kind of muddled up, and I would just drop hints and then get frustrated because it wasn't happening or I wanted to. And that's ultimately because I wasn't really clear. So clarity is the first thing. The reason why find it so hard to get help is because we don't have clarity of what kind of help we want. So if someone's on live with me today, please do say hello. I've just realized I'm a bit far away from the video. Say hello to me so I know who's with me. That would be great. So the first thing is get clarity of what kind of help you want. So another good example is Mark and I, when we've been training for the cycling. We were out at the weekend and we left and we decided we were going to do a few hills, do a shorter run. So we got the fitness, the adrenaline, got the heart pumping, but we got it done in a much shorter period of time because I had lots to do. And when we're out, Mark started talking to me about, he started talking on the outside. Well, actually, at that moment in time, the kind of help I wanted was silence. I just needed to know he was there in case I needed a puncture. I needed him to be there, so I knew he was guiding us. So one of the things I want you to think about today is, what kind of help do you want? And one of the things I talk about is it a motivator, is it a manager, or is it a mentor? So in one of the courses I run is the Motivate, Manager, Mentor. If it's a motivator, then it'll be a cheerleader, somebody who is going to be letting you know that they're noticing progress outside of you. They're noticing, they're kind of letting you know how far you are, the help, but they have to find out what motivates you. And for me, when I work with my personal trainer, Belinda Butler from Pizzazz Me, and when I've worked with Mark with the physical training, is that when I'm putting a lot of physical effort into it, if someone says to me, you've only got 10 seconds left, and actually it feels like it's longer than 10 seconds, I give up. Whereas actually what I've found works is I need to know, I have to be able to control, if you like, and ask. So I said to Mark, right, let me know when we get to 13 miles, let me know when we get to 8 miles. And so I can tell him the the time tracks, if you like, the numbers that will motivate me rather than demotivate me. Because when you're under pressure and you're really tired, whether you're in business or this is physical training, personal training, what you hear outside can either motivate you or distract you. I was working with a client this week and she said she gets really motivated when someone says to you, you know, you can't do that, because she sort of says, dare me. And like when she hears other people say she can't do it, that motivates her to do it. So I've been modeling that behavior this week, thinking that's a really good way for me to develop my motivation. Because I'm the kind of person that up until learning how to manage my critic, if someone said to me, you can't do that, there's a very good girl inside of me, the very sort of law-abiding, the rule person would go, oh, I can't do that. And I would just believe it as categorically that I can't. I never saw it as something to challenge, to push against, to prove otherwise. And so being part of a mastermind group, part of a group of people who are all modeling how they make decisions and what motivates them, I've been able to model that this week and think, right, okay. And it's definitely come in handy with my weight loss journey, because last year I didn't do it. And for the last 10 years, I haven't really been losing weight. I know I can, because I've got evidence from 1995 that I can lose 4 stone in quite a short period of time. But I've also got a lot of evidence to say that I can't do it. And I've got a lot of people outside of me, or I've got some people, I should say, out of me saying, you know, but you said you're going to do it before and you haven't done it, so what's going to be different this time? So it's almost like challenging me. And in the past, I'd have gone, yeah, I failed before. I'd have put all my attention on that. And then I wouldn't have been able to make the shift, change of focus to get the different results in my mind. So I want you to think about your help. Is it a motivator? And if it is a motivator, what I want you to remember is that when it comes to listening and processing information, we all process information differently at different times. So if Mark, I'm not very good at someone encouraging me in the moment if I don't have black and white evidence that I've improved. I don't do sort of superficial, oh, that's well done, that's great, because I'm like, my brain wants to know, well, how do you know? So if Mark says, gosh, you got up that hill faster than before, and he tells me after the event, that really works for me. The other day we were going up a hill and it was really steep, and he says, you've never got off the bike on this hill ever before. And I remember my energy levels going down because it felt like a huge amount of pressure, because I had to not do it, because it was talking about what I've never done before rather than what I have done. So for me personally, tell me what's working, tell me what has worked, tell me what you're noticing improvement. That will motivate me. But also work with me and ask me when is a good time to tell me that feedback. So there's a couple of times on the hill where Mark said things like, and this isn't the steepest parts yet. Well, I'm using all of my energy and all of my self-talk to get up this bit of a hill, and it's not that steep, and he's telling me there's a steeper bit yet. Now, I know that his purpose and intention is to get me to pace myself and to help me to keep my pace going so I don't burn myself out before the next bit, and I understand that, but I can physically feel my energy go down when I'm doing something that's hard work, and then he's going to tell me that it's going to get harder soon. It doesn't do anything for my motivation. So I'm really fortunate I have a really kind husband who will allow me to say, just stop now for a minute. I'm okay. I just need silence to get up these steep hills. I don't need to hear anything outside. I just need to be able to talk to myself on the inside. So think about it. Is it motivation that you need? And if not, get curious about, if it is motivation, what kind of motivation works for you? When do you want it? Who do you want it from? How is it delivered, and why does that motivation work for you? Really start to question it from all different perspectives. Think about what the first thing is. Think about how you need to be. You know, what's your mindset and attitude when you're getting motivation? Because I hear lots of complaints when people are getting praise and recognition and they're not even acknowledging it, don't even hear it. So motivation is one kind of help you might need. The other one is managing. So motivate, manage, or mentor. So managing, that's when the kind of help you're looking for is you want someone to actually manage the workload, to project manage you, your staff, to tell you what to do and when to do it. So you're offloading everything that's out of your head, and that person is helping you to do it. So that's what I do as a coach with many of my clients. I spend my time listening to them to help them offload all of their thoughts, their chaos in their head, getting out onto paper so they can physically see it, they can organize their thoughts, they can prioritize them, and they can start to make sense of them. And then at that point, they have the choice to make the decision to delegate or ask for help, and they can then look at individual tasks and think about what kind of help do they need. And depending, I will always be working with my clients as well and asking them when they need to have motivation. So if their motivation looks like it's waning a bit, I might point out what's working, what's changed, and encourage them to celebrate those changes. So that's the role that I play with my clients as a coach. But in everyday life, I see this in business and in families as well, where we download what's not working, we get it all sorted out of our head, we work out what the next task is, but we haven't really clarified whether we just want someone to help us sort our head out so we can take action. So all the help is we need the specific kind of listening, or whether we're being listened to so that we can actually delegate it. So this happens in business all the time, but also particularly with husband and wife teams, particularly me and Mark. I'll start downloading and he'll go, well, what you need to do is X, Y, and Z. So you start giving me solutions. And I'm like, I don't want you to tell me how to fix the laptop. I don't want you to tell me how to do it. I want you just to do it. So I'm telling you about this information so that you can fix it for me. But invariably, I start talking before I've actually clarified for myself what kind of help I want. So what I do now is I'll say to Mark, I've got a whole lot going on in my head. Can you just listen to me and help me to unravel it? And then I can organize it. And then when I've organized it, I can then say to him, okay, so there's a couple of things here that I'd really like some help with. And I'd really like it if you could actually do that. Is that going to work? And then we find out whether he's got the time, the inclination, or the motivation to do that. And so think about managing. Managing can just sometimes be managing your thoughts. Sometimes it can be managing physical tasks. But are you clear what kind of help you want, who you want to help you, when you want the help, how you want them to help you, and also the big why. Why is that drive? What's the driver for it? And often the bit we don't tune into is that internal system, your heart and your head and your whole physical being that's telling you, giving you all the clues, the intuition of why this is important, not just for you, but for the bigger picture, to make sure that you are well and that and other people get a chance to do the thing that they were put on the planet to do as well. So that's managing. Mentoring is when we actually need someone to tell us what to do. So we want someone to teach us a process. So again, if you are going to want to be, the kind of help you need is for someone to train you or teach you or talk you through. One of the things that tends to happen is we don't know how we learn at our best. We don't know how we process information. We don't know how our five senses work. And so we often go in to try and learn something, and we spend more time feeling agitated and frustrated because we're not able to process the amount of information. So I'm really enjoying working with Nat Binet at the moment. She's got a really good balance between having there's lots of videos on that are very short videos with tutorials about what to do, so I can replay them anytime I want. I can watch them at the time that I can be in the learning mind and my learning state at the best time of the day for me, and I can work through those videos at my own leisure. But there is also a live call once a week. Admittedly, it was at 2 o'clock in the morning. It will be 2 o'clock in the morning tonight, straight into Tuesday morning, where I can get on live. And if anything hasn't worked, I can ask questions. So I can ask her the bits I don't understand. I've got a Facebook group where I can ask questions. So mentoring often requires you to be asking the questions of other people and expecting them to give you the answers of their wisdom. But what often happens in my experience is that we ask for training. So let's say I've gone to Nat for training on my sales process. I want accountability. I want to measure my numbers. I want to be proactively be held accountable to take action and do something to generate income on a weekly basis. And I know what works for me already, and I've gone to her and there's bits she's teaching me and I'm going, yeah, I like that bit, I can add that bit in, and I'm adding it to my existing model. What I do find people do is they go to trainers and they go to mentors, they go to teachers, and they start teaching or learning somebody else's model from scratch with no idea of their existing model. And I haven't come across anybody yet that doesn't have some kind of model of even if it's from your imagination. So if you want to, so in my case, sell more effectively, and I want to be more proactive with my selling, by using processes like clean language, I can ask myself questions or be asked the questions. So when I'm selling at my best, or when I'm proactively selling, that's like what? When I'm proactively selling and it feels right for me and the customer, that's like what? And I can model out what I've already got that works. I can then listen to Nat's model, and I can easily see the difference between my model and hers. In which case, the great news is I've usually got 2 or 3 things I've got to tweak or change. I'm not trying to learn a whole new model. I'm just trying to find the pieces that will make my model work better, my way of doing things more effective. And when I see this, as people go out and they get into learning mode, they get obsessed with following gurus, following experts, downloading free this, downloading free that, trying to get all these models. And so if you ever got to the situation where help's really struggling and no matter what you buy, nothing works for you, then the likelihood is you haven't invested enough time actually listening to yourself, finding out how you do it. It might be a past experience. So, let's say, for example, you made one sale in your life, or maybe you've convinced your child to do their bedroom. You've sold the concept or the idea to them. You've got your husband to buy into an idea, whatever it might be. If you've managed to get somebody to like your idea or to allow you to help them or do something, that is a sales process. Sales for me is serving. This person's got a problem, I have a solution, and we have a conversation and we help each other. There's nothing sleazy about it. There's an exchange of money that's based on what I think my time and my knowledge is worth and what I think is going to save them and what it's going to create in their life. And then there's a perception of what they believe it's worth. And at any given time, the value to any individual will change. But the value of the product or the service, in my mind, won't ever change, but the perception of it will change from other people. And so therefore I will, as long as I've sold one product, I have a model for selling. If I've never sold, then I have, as a person, had a buying experience. So I can look at when I'm buying at my best, that's like what, and what's my experience like when I'm buying in a way that works. And there's lots of stuff out there on the market, isn't there, about manipulative selling. But I will say to you now is that there are some people who've used the scarcity things, like you can only get this today and you'll get the discount. And I've bought big products at £3,000, £4,000 a go in terms of my personal development, my coaching, that have had those scarcity deadlines in it. And I'm really grateful for those deadlines to be there, because it would have been a decision that I may have taken a long time to think about, and then I would not have got the benefit. I wouldn't have got I wouldn't have got signed up, and I wouldn't have got started. I would have processed, I would have percolated, I would have procrastinated in order to make that decision. Whereas actually, when I know I've got a deadline that I've got to make the decision by, either because there's a limited number of spaces, or there's a limited time for that offer to be going on, or there's something else that's limited, the natural thing is I know how I make decisions. I already knew intuitively I really wanted to do this thing. The time frame is what gave me the ultimatum to make a decision right now. So I want you to think about that today. Think about, why is it so hard for you to get good help? If you were to model that out using the clean language questions that we use in the manager critic group, you'd be asking, so what kind of help is that help that you want? What kind of good is that? Is there anything else about that? And what happens just before you get good help? That's one way of modeling out. Or the ones I've been talking about, is it motivation, management, or mentoring you want? So think about, before you start asking people for help, before you start complaining that they're not helping you, are you communicating with clarity? Do you have clarity of what kind of help you want? Because that's the starting point. I have worked with so many people that, for example, people thought they needed more help in the business, and when we started really modeling out what the challenges really were, and managed all those thoughts, got clarity of what was happening, what it actually turned out is they needed more childcare. As working mums from home, the reason they weren't getting the work done was because they were being distracted, and they were torn between the two responsibilities. And so one of the people got more help with babysitting. Another person realised that they had a housekeeper, a cleaner, but they weren't really cleaning at standards. They felt they had to go back around behind them, and that was distracting. That meant they didn't feel comfortable getting on with what they were doing because the house was a mess around them. So it was actually a housekeeper that the cleaner that needed to be motivated, managed, and mentored on how they wanted things to be done. Other people have come to me thinking they need to get more help from their partner. They wish their partner was being more helpful at home. They wish they did more chores. And actually what they need to do is delegate the accounts and other stuff from work. So if you're not really clear about what kind of help you want, and you're not clear before you start talking to that person about what works for you to be motivated, what works for you to be managed effectively, what works for you to be mentored, you don't know what you need to work, learn, and live at your best with other people, the likelihood is you're going to have this, what I call a calibration dance, where you're going to do something, they're going to respond in a way, and then you're going to have a feeling of that worked or it didn't work. And then that is what we have to do. But at least you'll know why it's not working, and you won't get into drama and start blaming them for not doing this. You can simply come back with clarity and say, okay, so that doesn't work for me, but what would work for me would be this. And together, eventually, that delegation partnership starts to smooth out, because you start to work out what works for you. Or you might find that that person isn't the right person to work in partnership with you. Perhaps they haven't got the core values, perhaps they don't work in a synergistic way for you. They need things delivered in a completely opposite way to the way you deliver them. But it's knowing all of that that makes asking for help possible. So I hope you have an amazing week. This is the first day of my, I'm going to be doing my sponsor slims officially starting again today. So 21st of May until the 14th of December, or at least the Monday around that date. And I'm set to actually lose 33 pounds. So I will have achieved the 50 pounds while I'm still 50 before my 51st birthday. And I would appreciate your love and support. If you were able to pledge an amount, whether it's a penny, 10p, a pound, or £10, or whatever it is per pound, that you'll pay me on the 14th of December, that would be great. And if you also want to be part, when you do that, you get a chance to be part of a private group where I'm sharing more of my hints, tips, and resources on how to motivate, manage yourself and mentor yourself through change. Have a fab week.